Heck. So we are in fact adding some weight back to the E46. We have these door cards and this bulkhead delete plate, both by Hard Motorsport. This was one of the items we went up to Spokane to go and pick up when we took our trip up there. This is pretty easy to install. There's just some rivets. We'll show you guys how to do that. These, on the other hand, are a little bit more complicated. We're actually going to be doing this video a little bit backwards. Most of the time we explain what we're going to be doing and show it and then speed up if there's a duplicate like one side or the other. In this case, we're actually going to be fast forwarding this part and then explaining it better on the other side. I don't know necessarily how these are going to go in. So before I explain what's going on, I want to make sure I've got one done and ready to go, and we'll go over the other side in more detail. So this is the driver door card. Besides widening out that hole, the only other thing that I did to this door was add the mirror controls to it. This was super easy, it took me just a couple minutes. There is a module back behind here that we had to move down about 6 inches. That was really easy to do, just use some self-tapping screws and made sure that none of the screws that we added are going to hit the window when the window moves up and down. I'm super happy with the way that it turned out. So I didn't actually use the hardware that Hard Motorsports sent with the door cards. I'm actually using these L brackets that I stuck one part to the door, and then the other side that sits up in the L shape grabs the edge of the door, and then I use rivets to put this on. If your window regulator or your motor is showing any signs of wear, make sure you get that replaced before you do something like this. I could have easily have done screws, but since my doors have been completely redone recently, I'm not super worried about it. And then obviously you can take rivets out, they're just kind of a pain. But I am super happy with the way that it turned out. It really didn't take me that long. Once I figured out what I was doing, it was about an hour. So we're gonna show you a little bit more in depth when we install the other door, and then we'll put it in the bulkhead delete. So this is the way the doors are set up now. As you can see, there aren't our door cards on at all. And the other thing is this right here. Gets pretty loose, so hopefully with these new door cards this will stop doing that. And the other thing is it won't be a handle anymore like this. It'll actually be a pull strap to pull and open the door, and those are red, which is pretty cool to match the car. They did give us a pull strap to shut the door. I want to reuse this one. I just think it looks a little bit cooler and it's red, so I want to reuse this, which means that we're going to have to modify the door a little bit. This is about a ½ inch wider, and then it's also thicker because it's folded over a couple times here. And then that will be mounted in the same spot that they wanted us to mount the other ones, which is right here, and we'll go through all that. So we're going to start off on this side by pulling off the door handle and the strap that I have bolted on. This is just a Phillips screwdriver. You pop that center cap out and pull this off. This will be one of the harder things we're going to be doing because there's actually a dowel in here we're going to be pulling out. And I apologize if there's some extra noise. Tanner is doing his brake rotors and his brake pads right now. So he'll be adding some extra ambiance in the background. So there's a pin that holds the door handle on. So what we're going to be doing is using a drill bit to expose the top of it and then pushing the pin out so we can replace this door handle with the pull strap components.
Suffocating, I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire.
So these are pretty difficult to get on, but if you leave that dowel out and then remove this rubber piece from the inside, it sits just behind here. If you remove that, you can slide this back behind there, and it takes me about 3 or 4 minutes still, even though I've done a couple now. So just kind of give it some time. Once that goes on, we'll move on to the next step of mounting the door up. So one of the tools I've been using a lot that helps me out with this project is a step-up drill bit. What's been nice with this is if I need to trim, which you're gonna need to trim a lot on these. So like for instance right here, this spot on this trim piece doesn't really have a cutout right here. So you can use this step-up drill bit to just gnaw into the plastic and actually create room for pieces that don't have actual cutouts. On the other side, I had to drill this out quite a bit. On this side, it looks like it fits better. So I'm just gonna drill in right here for that piece, and then this will slide right in. So now I'm gonna modify this strap spot to fit the larger strap that I'm gonna be using. So now what I'm gonna do is use this long screw that goes into this hole right here, which connects to the original point of the car. Put this on there, which will put the door card roughly where we need it. From there, we're going to drill out a spot for the lock tab that moves up and down. And then what we'll be doing is taking a Sharpie marker and running a line around the door card so that we know where it sits. So when we pull it off, we know where to put our L brackets. Once your L brackets are in the proper position and you have them at the right angle that you're gonna need for your door card, what you're gonna wanna do is mark the door card with a Sharpie marker and then go around, drill your holes. Once all the holes are drilled, you can then finally mount up the door card permanently using your rivets. So first off, I'm extremely happy with the door cards. The way they turned out, they look awesome. They completely changed the interior of the car. One other thing I want to go over is how strong this material actually is. I couldn't believe how strong it was, and at the same time easy to work with. I left a couple score lines with a razor blade on the other side when I was building the mirror switch, and I was able to use a heat gun to warm up the area and basically have it almost melt back into itself without overheating it. And it didn't leave any marks at all. I pushed on these a lot to get them to mount where I wanted them to. I wasn't getting any stress marks or cracks or anything like that. Any other plastic would have broken or at least done that where it changes color, distress bends and stuff like that. So I'm very happy with the way they turned out. So the last thing that's going in the car today is this bulkhead plate. So I'm going to crawl into the vehicle somehow and get this thing mounted up. It looks pretty straightforward, but we'll walk you through it. So I'm gonna start this install by opening up the trunk. My process to open the trunk is a little bit more complicated than it used to be with this wing that I've got. And once I put the bulkhead in there, I won't be able to pass through the trunk anymore. So this is gonna be kind of interesting. First off, I apologize if this video is a little bit rough back here. It is extremely tight. In fact, it's very weird to see my car from the back seat, or what's left of what was the back seat. But anyways, I've had to remove the foam for the wiring to get the bulkhead to lay flat. The other thing I've had to do was loosen up these screws for the grounds on both sides of the car. I just loosened that bolt, took them out, put those back in. There's a couple screws right here. You have to take out all 4 of these. These 2 on the bottom, I guess, don't get reused, but these 2 on the top actually hold the plate down. This is on the bottom passenger side. And then as you can see over here, I did the same thing. I had to loosen up this guy, had to remove the foam around the wiring. So a quick update, we have the 4 rivets across the top where the holes were pre-drilled, and then we also have these 2 screws in the bottom that I showed you guys earlier. It's pretty solid as it is, it's not going anywhere, but they gave me a whole bag of rivets, so I'm gonna go to town and just make sure that this doesn't rattle on me. As you can hear, as right now it would still rattle, so I'm gonna add some more, see if we can't get rid of it fully. So I've used every single rivet that they gave me, went around the entire plate and just made sure that it wasn't rattling anymore. Honestly, until I drive the car, there's not really any way to tell besides just kind of hitting it with your fist and telling if there's any buzzes or rattles. It feels pretty solid right now. I'm getting pretty sick of being back here, so I'm going to get everything all packed up, and then I will bring the camera back in here and show you guys exactly what I did. So there you have it, the Hard Motorsport door cards with the door pulls and the bulkhead plate. Again, I am super happy with the way everything fits and looks. I'm a little surprised, actually. I was told by Hard Motorsport, you're gonna have to trim, you wanna trim, make sure you trim everything, you keep working on it, and if you think it's gonna fit, trim a little bit more. And I'm surprised at how many of these parts actually fit the first time around and or take very little trimming at all. They do make parts a little bit on the big side so you can trim them down to make sure you get that exact fit, but like these door cards here, besides trimming out the stuff for the lock and unlock and a little bit here and there, they basically fit right in, and that bulkhead, I didn't have to change anything about that at all. I just made sure that everything on my car was ready to receive where it was going to be sat, and it fit right in there. And with that, I recommend all three of these items on your E46.